We are going to call the October Transportation Committee meeting to order. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 members, so we have enough for a quorum. And I have those on my list. I give you all credit for being here. All right. So first item then is the approval of the August 12th and the September 7th special and regular meeting minutes. I would entertain a motion to approve those. Member Lehman, second. Member Klein. Any questions or comments? All right, if not, ready to vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? That motion carries. Next item is number 3, recommend payment of bills and appropriate transfer request forms. I didn't see any transfers anywhere. So are there any questions? First, I'll take a motion to put those on the table. Member Rogel, second. Member Thompson. All right. So was there any questions on any of the bills? I was going to ask, I think it's towards the back. It's just a comment, I guess, to United Contractors Midwest, it's page 9 and 9. It's $302,360. Jerry, could you just kind of give me some idea what that is?
Sure. So this was a project that Bloomington Township had done. And so this is actually coming out of the township motor fuel tax.
Okay.
And so it's just a project that they did on Woodrick Road. They resurfaced it, and we put the plans together and did the construction inspection on it. So we just processed the pay estimate to United UCM, which is road construction.
So technically, it's just out of their account?
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And actually, on this particular project, the township was putting in, I want to say like 115,000 of his local dollars that'll reimburse the motor fuel tax when it comes in.
Okay. Then on page 8, I see we purchased some right away. It looks like we're part owner of a hog farm now. Is that right?
Well, maybe. So this is up on the Meadows Road, that the 5.5 mile project we have for next year.
Okay. Anybody have any other questions on the bills? All right. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Bills will be paid. Okay, so no members of the public to appear, correct?
That is correct,
All
Chairman.
right. And so we'll start down the departmental matters. The first one is 5A1, request approval for Meadows Road, County Highway 23 section, and you can read it. We want to do all those in one motion. All right, who wants to make that motion? Member Thompson, second Member Lehman. All right, Jerry, you want to lead us on that?
Sure. So this was the Meadows Road project that we just talked about on the right of way. We've there's 42 parcels of right of way that we needed. I think we're down to final 3 that we're working on. Some of it's kind of held up in the paperwork side. So yeah, it's a 5.5 mile project that's going to go from I-55 up to Route 24. And this will be a total reconstruction, widening of the ditches and the road. And so these resolutions, one of them is from the Rebuild Illinois funds that came down from the Capitol bill here a couple of years ago. And then, so that's like $4 million. And then there's $2.5 million from the highway fund that is actually coming from the Blooming Grove Wind Farm for their use of the road. And then the remaining portion will be made up of MFT and TARP funds. So we're looking at the estimate of like $8 million for this project. And we're planning on going to a letting here in January, and maybe even try to get the utilities to start relocating their facilities yet this year.
Okay. Questions or comments? So I assume then, looks like this is it's at least an expensive project. It looks like it's a pretty big one. I assume that you're going to try and get going on that as soon as the spring as you can, other than what you can do this fall.
Yeah, that's correct. So, yeah, we're looking at the January letting. The plans are all completed, everything's done, and so that way, as soon as the weather breaks in first part of April, the contractor can hopefully get started. And yeah, it's going to take them all year to do by the time they get all the dirt work done and the new aggregate and the hot mix put in. It'll be an all year project.
So will they do a mile at a time, or will they do it all? I guess what I'm getting at as far as road closure.
Yeah, so we'll have the road closed the whole 5.5 miles because they'll be moving dirt from 1 mile to the next, and we'll have access for the residents. They'll maintain access. I want to say there's like 5 or 6 residents, and then anybody that needs to get in the field or any to get through, we might have the roads closed certain times when we're replacing the culverts, but most of the time you'll be able to drive through
And
it.
and it looks like there's a mile to the east is a road or a thoroughfare that most of the people will be able to use. I can't tell on the west, is that, that last 3 miles, is that just a border marking or is that a road?
There is a road there. I think it goes part of the way. I don't think it goes all the way through there.
Right,
This is actually also a continuation of a project that we did, I want to say in 2012, maybe even earlier than that, where we upgraded this a mile south of here, the Meadows Road, and then we also upgraded 2 miles of Chenoa and Lexington Township out to the ISU farm. So this will kind of tie all the 80,000 pounds together, and it'll be a good thoroughfare to access Route 24 in
Okay.
Lexington.
any questions? Okay, let's vote. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next item is 5A2, request approval of the weight limit resolution for the Meadows Road. I would entertain a motion. Member Klein, second member Lehman. All right, Jerry, you want to go ahead with that?
So we also applied for truck access route program funds. So we received $517,000 to add to this project from the state. And so, and like I was saying, this is the Prairie Alliance built a new grain elevator on 2550, just a mile north of 24. And they're also tied. They also have a facility there in Lexington. So there's a lot of truck traffic that goes back and forth through there. And so we applied for this funding knowing that there was going to be some additional truck traffic. And so this resolution makes for the 80,000 pound road. And we'll send this in to IDOT along with the local agency agreement.
All right. Member Klein?
So this is just for my own edification. So the resolution says the designation to be effective upon the completion of the reconstruction and resurfacing of said highway. I guess my question is, when is it considered complete? I mean, because you said it's gonna be an all-year project.
Right.
So is there some official moment? Does the entire thing have to be complete before the wait? Is there a moment that it is certified, or how does that work?
Yeah, when we open the road up, that's when it'll be completed. So all the hot mix will be on it, and that's what will make it the 80,000 pound route, basically. So, and we'll put signs up at that time once it's completed. And
But there could still be some additional finishing work, or,
yeah, I mean there could be some seeding work or some touch up work or whatever,
Okay.
but the road would be open and
so once the
considered
hot mix
80,000
and
pounds
everything's
at
done.
that time.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else? Okay, ready to vote? Are we supposed to roll call these? Not necessary, okay. All right, in that case, all those in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion carries. I hate to beat Julie out of her job back there, but. All right. Okay, then we are ready for 5A3, request approval of an intergovernmental agreement with the Board of Education of Ridgeview Community Unit District, School District Number 19. Entertain a motion. Member Lehman, second. Member Rogel. Okay, am I pronouncing that right? Yep. Okay. Okay, so Jerry, you want to lead us on that?
Sure. So the Ridgeview School District reached out to us on a couple items that they had on our road that goes along through Colfax on Harrison Street, and they were requesting to put flashing beacons up on the school zone head signs. And we went through the process, how I told them that we go about it. We've done this in Carlock and Danvers, and so we buy the beacons, and then the school district reimburses us for the lights. We put them up, and then we program them each year based on the school calendars, and so they run like for an hour in the morning and the hour in the afternoon when the heavy traffic's going along the routes.
Any questions? I believe there's a four-way stop there that has one already, is that correct?
Yes, the
So
stop
did-
sign is a flashing stop sign. So
Several
thi-
years ago?
Yeah, so this will actually be on for the school zones. It will
Right.
only be lit or lighting when their buses are running and kids are walking and everything. And they're also applying for a grant to the village of Colfax is with the school district on upgrading some sidewalks around the schools and kind of along Harrison Street as well. And so, because we resurfaced the road back in 2016, and we're not responsible for the sidewalks, but we did do the ADA ramps, and so those were completed. So they want to continue the sidewalk south. There's a ball diamond that's just kind of across from the school district. So they did ask for a letter of support for me on that, and I provided them one.
Okay. Any questions? Okay, ready to vote? All those in favor say aye. Oppose? All right, motion carries. Okay, next item is 5A14, amendment to the Chapter 300, Roads and Highways of the McLean County Code. I will mention that we have members of Hudson here today to answer questions if you have any. And I would entertain a motion just to get this on the floor. Member Thompson made a motion, second? Mr. Rogel. Okay, so we've kind of discussed this a little bit, but Jerry, I'll go ahead and let you lead us to start with.
Sure. So the village of Hudson, they provided some language that to add to our ordinance, and so that's what we have in front of the committee this morning. And and there's also some letters from the McLean County Sheriff and the Regional Planning Committee on kind of their view on the vehicles on the county highways.
Okay. Anybody have any discussion? I know that when we ended up last month, that there was, the discussion of the possibility of the village doing something either with additional sidewalks or trail or something like that. Do you know whether there's been any more research into that?
No, I don't believe there has been. I know they're working on a sidewalk project now, and they've probably maybe have half of that done. And so there was talk about whether they could extend that out and do that. There was also a thought that there's a kind of an empty lot where this sidewalk kind of I guess it'd be east of the Dollar General, where maybe another golf cart path could be built along that stretch where they'd be able to come down Shiner and access that lot and then be able to drive towards the Dollar General and that for that location.
Okay.
But I mean, it doesn't address the issue on the other side of town where there's a dead end road and on that. But that was just kind of what we talked about.
Okay. Any other discussion? I kind of believe it was, again, I hope I'm not overstanding my boundaries here, but I kind of felt it was like the wish of the committee to at least do whatever we could do. I mean, as far as that goes, I mean, obviously, if we don't pass this, it's just a matter of any other things that the county could do to help out. So any other discussion? Member Thompson?
So I was wondering if we could maybe, I guess we could always table this. I was maybe like to go up and look at, meet with them and see if there's other options based on the recommendations of the Highway Department, the sheriff. It doesn't look very favorable. Unless I'm speaking out of turn, I don't know.
Can you speak a little closer to the microphone?
Sorry.
I was wondering about possibly maybe just table this and see if I could go up and meet with them and see if there's other options. Based on the information that's been provided, there's been, it doesn't look very favorable. And I just wondered, and maybe there isn't, but I'm just throwing that out as an option other than just turning this down and.
Okay,
um,
so parliamentarian, is that a motion then to table?
Motion to table.
Okay, and we need a second for that? All right, someone want to second that? Member Rogal, second that. Member Klein, did you have a comment? Okay, and then Member Lehman after that.
Question, but it's not relevant to the motion to table, so I think
Um,
parliamentarily I cannot.
If I can interrupt, if you're going to table this, are you tabling it, are you moving to reconsider at another date? On the next meeting perhaps, or another date, or just putting on the table for this meeting? Also, that would end all the discussion if we did that right now.
Okay,
So if that motion is now active and has to be decided before any other discussion, and if it is approved, then no other discussion on this can happen.
okay, all right, but okay. So there's a motion and a second to table to next month,
That would be, yeah, I'll just make it a priority to do that.
okay? Okay, well, let's go ahead and vote on that. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? How about a roll call vote then?
Member Thompson. Member Klein.
No.
Member Lehman. Member Friedrich.
Not
is
here.
Not here. Member Soldner.
Yes.
Member Rogal.
Okay, so in that case, the motion fails, so we will continue with discussion on the motion, on the original motion. So, Member
Yeah.
Klein, go
So
ahead.
I'm not saying I won't table it later, I just had some questions first, sorry. That's okay. I wanted to ask legal counsel, Ms. Vasquez, a couple of questions about the proposed wording. So I think the mayor and whoever participated, we asked them to come back with wording, and they gave us wording, and I appreciate that. What they have written in or have suggested as a write-in is a full permitting process for non-vehicular modalities on county highways, essentially. And I just wonder, if you've had the chance to look at this, because I guess I expected them to come back with a sort of narrow option, right, for certain townships or cities to have some sort of option to have, these vehicles. But what they've come back with is sort of now would be a county-wide permitting process for those vehicles. So I just wondered if you all had an opinion about that or looked at that, or is that allowable even?
I'm gonna infer, or send it either to Jerry or our administrator. Actually, what they did, I believe just the page 20, they've included it to our present document. But
Yes,
if that's not correct, would somebody correct me?
yes.
So again, yeah, all the other after page 20, it was originally in our document, or we had approved it at an earlier time.
So the permit requirements, all of that has been, I thought everything in blue was new. All the blue is new. So blue on the top of 20, and the permit requirements on page 21, 22, 23 are all new.
Okay, well, unfortunately, mine is all white and
Oh,
black.
sorry.
So,
Sorry, well, there you go. So that's the last full paragraph, Jim, on 20. From be it further ordained, the second be it further ordained, forward. Everything else there is new. So as I say, I assume we would be kind of getting a narrow maybe a paragraph or so, but this is a full-on new permitting process which would apply to all cities and townships. Is that correct?
I agree with that assessment, and it does leave open the possibility of evaluating a municipality, and, so it leaves open the possibility of further resolutions to narrow down the location and or not, depending on which way you read it and how you want to treat it. But you're right, it is a little, it's not that narrow.
Okay, Member Lehman, did you have something? Microphone, please.
Thank you. Yeah, I was just curious about the conversation we had previously had about potentially widening the sidewalk. And Mr. Stokes, you said that you weren't aware of, any adjustments or updates on that. How much, if that were to be a viable option in the end, how much of that would actually fall onto the county's purvey? And how much of it would actually be, something that, that the village of Hudson actually, plans and takes on themselves? And then I have a follow-up after that as well.
So I'd treat it like a sidewalk, so we would permit them to be able to, if they were gonna work in the county right away, we would provide a permit for them to do that. But all the costs for the construction of any type of additional path or something would be on the village.
Okay. And then our conversation here today, and whether we do take a vote at this juncture or hold off on another time, that's merely on the ability to drive the golf carts on the county highway. That doesn't necessarily cut off all discussion and all, options that are out there for it. Is that accurate?
I would assume what it would mean is that we are adopting this resolution. So again, we can always discuss, at a further date, again, if we decide, if they come to us wanting a permit to do sidewalk widening or whatever, we would have an opportunity to discuss then. Or I guess any other time that you want to bring it up under a topic for discussion. Member Klein? I'm sorry.
I don't want to jump in front of anyone else, just for a sense of clarity. I don't have any problem with Gerald, Member Thompson, going and talking with them and seeing if there's another route. But I don't support the way what they have presented here as a code, and I don't
Okay.
think I ever will. But it doesn't mean I don't see any other way, as you see, is what I'm trying to say. Like, I don't support what they've presented here, but I don't see that we have to absolutely close the doors forever, that the conversation can go forward. So I suppose my question is, if we give this a down vote, Member Thompson can still go out and speak with them and bring it back to the committee. Is that correct? At a later date? That, just because we're only voting on this
Right.
resolution, we're not voting on the issue.
And I believe you're right.
In total,
And,
okay.
Again, if we vote this down, Member Thompson can bring it up next month or whatever. It wouldn't be an action item unless it's put on the agenda, and you would have to make sure we have enough time to do that. Yeah, just because we vote this down now doesn't necessarily end it. I think that's probably what we're getting at. So, Member Thompson, did you have a question?
Yeah, exactly. I appreciate what you're saying, because I'm not gonna get back in, sorry. I'm out of touch, or out of practice. Yeah, I just seen that, I think this is very problematic, and when I'm like you, I'd like to figure out a way to make this happen, and if there's ways we can do that. And also, so I'd invite you guys, if you want to come along, we could have a field trip and have a fun time, but working with our constituents, right? And so, anyway, yeah, agreed.
All right, Member Lehman?
I love that idea of being able to work together and find something. I also just wanted to call out the ultimate concern with the letters that we received in the packet from the sheriff's office, from the regional planning commission, from Mr. Stokes' department. Golly, it makes it look like it could be a very dangerous thing, at least from what they're saying. So I love the idea of being able to find something that works that works in the best interest of the village of Hudson, and I'm all for finding a better way. So thank you for suggesting that. I think that's a great call.
Okay, so then, at this point, we have a motion on the floor and a second. Any more discussion on the motion? Member Thompson?
Maybe a procedural question. Is it best to just vote it down, start over, or table and come back? And I don't really know. I'm just
I guess
asking.
at this point, that's where the procedure is. Now, I think,
I understand that's procedure. I was looking more of a, what's the best,
I don't
most
know if
efficient way?
Member Thompson would be allowed to make a motion to table, or whether it has to be somebody else.
Probably lost.
Either way, I think it's the pleasure of the committee at this point. It doesn't matter who makes that motion if that motion is going to be presented right now.
Okay. Well, I guess let's put it that way. Is anyone interested in tabling it again?
Maybe it's better just to start fresh.
Okay. So in that case, the motion on the floor is, was made to approve this. So, right now we're ready to vote. I don't know, I would prefer a roll call vote just because it's pretty major. And I want to hear Julie.
And the truth comes out.
So again, a motion to approve a motion yes approves it, a motion no shoots it down. All right?
Member Thompson,
No.
Member Klein,
No.
Member Lehman,
No.
Member Rogal,
No.
Chairman Zollner.
No. So again, I do believe we understand that we are gonna do some more research or from the people from Hudson. I appreciate you coming, and again, I know it might be a little disappointing, but I'm hoping we can still do something. So be sure and keep in contact with us, and I know that, and Member Metzger's here also, and that is in her district. So appreciate that. So,
Chair Soldner, may I interrupt real quick? If there are plans to reconvene outside of this meeting, I would just ask you communicate with administration so we don't accidentally have an OMA situation.
okay, noted. All right, so then, next item then is 5A5, request approval of the Highway Department 0055 fiscal year 2022 budget with a whole bunch of different things we're going to talk about. And is it necessary for me to name those?
Yes, I would, I would take them one at a time. Jerry does have a presentation to share with you, but I think it would be appropriate to get a motion on the floor and take those in order.
Okay, so would someone like to make that motion? Member Thompson, second Member Klein. Okay, and again, we have the document in front of us. We also, if you have your budget book, it'll be a different page. So, so Jerry, you can go ahead and start us.
Sure, thank you. So for the 22 budget, so the highway fund is made up of, or the highway department's budget is made up of 4 funds: the highway fund, the bridge fund, the county matching fund, and the county motor fuel tax fund. And so here's a slide that shows the, basically all our project, most of our budget is capital assets. 3/4 of it is all capital assets. And then the salaries, services, and supplies. So the highway fund is our general operating fund. And so most of the revenue comes from the general property tax. With the remaining revenue comes from the commodities that we sell to the townships, such as culverts, signs, and posts that we'll order for the townships, and then they'll reimburse us. We get engineering services from the townships from the motor fuel tax fund. So that's kind of based on their work that they do throughout the year. And then we also do equipment rental reimbursement for motor fuel tax. And so that's $500,000 that comes out of the motor fuel tax and reimburses our highway fund. And that is it covers basically our snow plowing, our mowing, other maintenance items that we do, kind of more like equipment-based type stuff. And then we also have other revenue that comes from permits and road use agreement fees based on the wind farms the last couple of years. So, so based on the increase in the AV, the total cost, the revenue went up 111,000 from the property tax increase. And then for our 500 line items, the salaries and fringe benefits, that's for our seasonal and overtime that we do. So our overtime for our snow plowing all comes out of the highway fund, and as well as the health insurance rates. And so kind of just go through a few of these expenses. I kind of highlighted some of them in the packet on that, or in the budget manual itself. But so the gas prices, I increased for 2022. Of course, the amount of price of fuel's gone up, and so I looked at the current pricing. We kind of keep a history of that. But the pricing was based on the June pricing and kind of how much we've used over the last couple of years. So I thought with kind of the forecast of the way that things were looking, that we needed to increase that amount. And then on the 620s, I based that on a 3-year average. And then the group purchasing for the expenses, that's kind of a lot of the commodities that we end up buying for the townships, for the signs and salt and that type of stuff. And then that gets reimbursed back to us. Some of the 700 line items, that we're looking at is the maintenance and materials that we use on kind of on a daily basis. I forecast that all to probably go up at least 5% next year is kind of what we're looking at. It seems to go up every year. Just it seems like everything's going up, not just the commodities, but every equipment and every parts and everything else is all going up as well. In the 744, the building and maintenance. So this covers a lot of our some of our things that we do around our facility. We've replaced a couple windows the last year, at least maybe a couple windows a year in the office. This does a lot of the calibrations that we have to do for cranes, our fuel pumps, and different things like that. And we're also looking to upgrade our our radios to digital. We're still on the analog system, so that's something that we kind of got in the works to look at. And I think maybe there's some other departments that are looking at that as well. And then the 750 is kind of our software licenses that we use. The MicroStation program is our main drawing program that we use for producing plans and that. So that's a pretty expensive program. It's, I think, like $8,000 a year that we end up paying for that. But we have probably, I don't know, 5 or 6 people that use it in the office, so it's well done. So the capital items. So we're looking at, we have a couple cold storage I guess they're salt sheds now that we use out at our property on McLean County East. We're actually looking at maybe putting one up at our facility there on Tawana Barnes to store some of the equipment that, like mowers and some other equipment that we pull. It kind of sits out in the elements a lot, so where we'd have it, covered out of the rain and the winter and that type of thing. We actually have the fabric from one of those buildings because we got a hole in it, but we were able to get it repaired. And so all we would really have to do is buy the structural steel that would need for that building. So on that, and then moving on to the 810, that's all the construction work that we're doing out of the highway fund. So a lot of that has to do with the Blooming Grove Wind Farm. We did 3 projects here in 21, but the Meadows Road, Shinoa Road, and a couple other projects. So we got like 4 projects next year from the Blooming Grove Wind Farm as well. We just couldn't fit it all into the 21 program. So so that's going to be a lot of the work for next year. And then our 850 line items are capital assets. So this is where things will get interesting. I did put in front of you kind of our equipment list that we're looking at for 2022. But talking to some of the vendors for our tandem trucks, that we try to rotate them out on an 8 to 10 year basis. And some of the vendors are saying that if we order here in, let's say, December, January, we might not get them till 2023. And so I don't know what we're gonna do. We might just skip a year and not buy a truck. But we've been buying Kenworths the last few years, and not saying that anything wrong with that, and they're good trucks. We had internationals before. We had issues with the internationals on some of the emission items. It sounds like they've got that cleared up, and they can actually, they can build a truck based on our specs, on our engine, the type of engine that we spec out. So they're allowed to do that, and the word is that they have slotted the I don't know if it's Illinois or nationwide, for like 7,500 international trucks. So there's a possibility that we could go through our whole bid process and say that we need to, our deadline needs to be July of 22, and international might be the only ones that can fulfill that deadline if we want to go down that route. So that's some of the kind of conversations we got to have internally based on that. And I think this is going to affect a lot of the equipment all the way down through here. So we might, but then I also think, well, maybe we need to get in the queue to get something ordered and have ready for when it does come in, or kind of when everything kind of shakes out. So it's kind of hit or miss. On that sheet, I did put a couple items down there, like we need a new grader and a brush cutter. That is down at the bottom of the list in case we needed to substitute something if we didn't go in with the tandems. So, any questions on that?
So then what we're doing today, or, we're gonna send on, is the budget. We don't make the actual payment until we get the item.
Correct.
So we may be budgeting all this money for this year, and we may not use it because if the items aren't provided.
That's correct.
But we can always do a transfer for 2023 or whatever it takes again. But I'm like you, I think it's important to at least get our orders in. And if we're lucky enough to get them, then we're set for that. And if we're not, then we can make provisions for that. So, any other questions? Member Rogal?
Yeah, so based on your estimate here, what, if you went with international versus whoever else, what are these prices still somewhat in line or close to being in line, or do you have no idea?
I have no idea. I think they're telling us at least a 10% increase, and I think when I did the budget, I just heard about that like a month ago, and I think I had already submitted the stuff in here, but I did increase it some, but I don't think I went to full 10% by any means. And so maybe what we do is, instead of doing 3, we look at doing 2, and part of the thing that we were also thinking about too is the timing. So we like to get the trucks in August, September timeframe. Well, we actually get the trucks in June. They go over to the body shop and get the beds and all the hydraulics put on them. Then they come back to our welding shop, and we build all the hitches and all the hookups for the snow plows, the salt spreaders, and so it probably takes about a month per truck to get that going. And so what we were thinking about is, if we order the trucks, let's say here in December, and we don't get it till January 23, that's not really gonna do us much good, because it's gonna be right in the middle of winter. And that's what we have to think about on trades as well, whether we just kind of hang on to the trades until we get all the equipment, and then sell them on an auction site or something to that effect. So it's just there's just a lot to kind of maneuver here.
And I guess technically that's all kind of in-house stuff. It doesn't really
Right.
affect us as a committee, although I appreciate you keeping us updated on that.
Sure.
But any other questions or comments? Member Klein?
I'm not sure if this is necessarily the time, but unless we're in an emergency situation for equipment, it would be my preference that we stayed with domestically produced products if we can.
Sure.
I mean, if we're in a situation where it is what it is and you just got to get what you've got to get, my preference would be to get in line for the domestically produced items, such as it is.
Yeah, I guess when I mentioned international, that's actually a brand.
Oh.
I'm sorry. Yeah.
Well, this is You know, I'm an art historian, so I'm
Right.
gonna need some help with that.
Right.
Right. When you said international, yes,
Yeah.
whatever brand, just so long as it's made in the United States, I'm
Right.
A-okay. Thank you.
Yeah, there's like three major, there's Kenworth and Peterbilt and International, so those kind of the main players on the truck side.
Thank you.
Sure.
I do have Continental tires, so I guess I buy into these things. that I know,
Right, right. So is there a reason other than maybe cost that you would consider going back to international or because of the inventory?
Well, I think, like I said, they had gotten their emissions figured out, and the type of the engines that we spec out at one time International couldn't get the Cummins engine basically,
Okay,
and so now they can, and so that it kind of puts them back in play.
okay. All right. Okay, so again, procedure here, we're not
Yeah, I just-
voting now, we're gonna go on to the next, pardon me? Okay, all right.
Yeah.
So unless there's any other questions, we'll move on to the next section.
Here's just a few pictures of some of the items that we'd be looking at: grader, a chipper, a backhoe. The backhoe, just for your information, so that actually we get that from Caterpillar, and there's an actual guaranteed buyback on that piece of equipment. So I think it's like $75,000 that they're guaranteed to give us back on our. Usually it's more, but that's guaranteed what their trade-in value on our piece of equipment would be. So the bridge fund is used for the county bridges and culverts and for township joint culverts and then township bridge program that we have. So on the township joint culverts, which we do quite a few each year, that's a 50-50 split between the county and township. And then the township bridge fund program is where we usually try to do one township bridge a year. We get about $320,000 out of that fund from the state, and so it's 80% the TVP fund, 10% county, and 10% township. So we do all the engineering up front for the townships. We build it, inspect it, and then we bill the townships their portion when project's completed. So the so 61% of the revenue comes from general property tax, and the remaining revenue comes from the townships and for the joint culverts and the township bridge projects that we have. So what the increase is, the tax rate stayed the same in this fund as it was the previous year. So with EAV increase, it was $63,000, and then I'm expecting the $300,000 from the township bridge fund and the based on the township with the joint culverts and that. So we do have one project planned for next year in Anchor Township. It's the Miners Bridge, and so we're working on plans for that, and probably would have that constructed sometime late next year. So some of the expenses that we have is design projects. We're usually designing these projects a year out, so we'll start. It says 22, but that should be 23. So we'll start at the beginning of the year designing projects for construction in 23. It takes by the time we get through all the environmental work that goes into some of these projects, it could go. It takes a year for it to get to all the design completed, and then the major one is the 18 line item out of the construction. We actually had we had a project lined up for 2021 that we were planning on doing, $1.5 million project. It got delayed because of some endangered mussels that we had to do some additional reporting and some additional work as part of that to get that completed. So that's on schedule now to be constructed here in 2022. We've worked through all those details, and so that's our major county project for next year, and it's on Stringtown Road. The next fund, the third fund, is the matching fund, and so this fund is is used to match the county's portion of federal or motor fuel tax dollars. And so it's usually used on a lot of our federal projects for resurfacing. And we typically get close to $1 million out of, it's called the federal fund, which is the Surface Transportation Rural funds that we get. And so this matching fund can be used for construction, engineering, or right-of-way. So that's the only three things it can be used for. It can't be used for buying any materials or salaries or anything of that nature. And then, so this tax rate's been maxed out for the last few years, and so there was a $56,000 increase. And so, yeah, almost 100% of this, the matching fund goes towards construction. And so, we're looking at a couple resurfacing projects where we're gonna spend, 1.9 million, on different projects, and they'll be matching our federal dollars on that. The next, fund is the motor fuel tax fund, and so this is where a lot of our maintenance work comes out of. A lot of our commodities such as salt, paint, and different things like that come out of that. We buy a lot of aggregate for this. And then we also use a lot of it for our construction projects as well as some engineering, as we need it. So the revenue comes from our monthly allotments. So we have like what we call kind of the regular motor fuel tax allotment that we get. And then in July 1st of 2019, that was when the capital bill passed, and that's when they doubled the motor fuel tax. And so there's a second fund, we'll call it, and it's a transportation renewal fund that we receive additional allotments each year on. And so the transportation renewal fund is tied to the CPI, so that actually increases as the CPI goes up. So it increases like every July along with that. There's also a supplemental allotment that we get that's from County Consolidated. And this isn't by statute, it's just a budgetary item that the state does. And I think they did it back in '99 when they kind of revised the motor fuel tax formula. But it usually equates to like two months worth of allotments that we get. And so we'll just use that for additional products or projects. And then the Rebuild Illinois Capital Program, that is the Rebuild Illinois funds that we just approved for the Meadows Road. So we received 4 allotments so far in 2 in 20 and 2 in 21, and we're expecting 2 more in 22. And so we're gonna use $4 million on the Meadows Road, and then we got a couple future projects that we're gonna use them on as well. And so kind of just going over allotments. I did put in the packet as well, kind of in the information items, a summary of some of our allotments so far for 21. And so we're running right under 300,000 per month on that. So that's kind of what I budgeted for 2022. I think it's a little bit conservative, but I think it is a good way to go. And as I mentioned, we were expecting 2 more allotments from the Rebuild Illinois funds on that. And so on some of the expenses out of the motor fuel tax, as I mentioned, a lot of the maintenance of the roads and drainage structures. So a lot of our oil and chip work comes out of the MFT fund. We did like $1 million just on the county highway maintenance alone this year. And then a lot of our salt purchasing, paint, and beads and things like that go with that. I'll give you an update on the salt price. So last year we paid like around $40 a ton, and that was the cheapest price that we've ever paid. And so usually, and we contract this through the state, and they take bids for all the other municipalities in the state, including Bloomington and Normal and that. And so usually when they run these contracts, they run them for 2 years, and so we have the option to renew. And so when I started the budget process this year, I thought we were going to be good. Well, then I received a letter from CMS, who runs the state bidding system, that said that Cargill, who was our supplier last year, has a facility down in Louisiana, and they had a fatality where a roof collapsed and killed 2 of their employees. And so they just decided that they shut the whole facility down. And so they weren't going to be able to fulfill their contracts. So the state in turn had to go back and rebid. And the first time they rebid, the prices were too high. They rejected them. And so they're still working on rebidding for the for this winter program. We haven't heard anything. I think that was supposed to be the 24th, and I haven't heard where those rates are at. But we are full of salt, so we do have like 5,000 tons on hand, so we are full. I just don't know what the price will be. So there might be some juggling where if we had to buy a bunch of salt this winter, we might not be doing as much oil and chip work. We kind of have to move stuff around in that at that time frame.
Okay. So there's a lot to digest there. Does anybody have any questions? I have one on, it's on the motor fuel tax account. On our handout, it's page 36. And it's about the unappropriated fund balance, line 400. There's a pretty substantial increase. And is that because of all this money that we're getting from the state and the Fed?
Yes. So
Okay.
that includes all the Rebuild Illinois funds that we've received, and so that's the $4 million that was just approved, and our balances have been pretty high the last couple of years because we've either found other funding sources, spent some federal dollars here. We received TARP funds. A lot of the projects were wind farm related, or we've gotten good prices. So I haven't really tapped into the motor fuel tax yet. So next year it'll be coming down. So yeah, in order to offset the construction costs on the expense side, we had to increase the unappropriated.
Okay. And again, if we find that we have to spend more money for salt, we would do a budget amendment or whatever, and we could actually use money from that fund if we needed to.
We could, yes. Yeah, if we decide, but usually, so next month I'll be bringing the motor fuel tax maintenance resolution through, and usually that's kind of capped out at a dollar amount. And so that encompasses all those items I mentioned. That includes oil and chip and the salt and some other items in there. So we would just have to kind of make the decision then of what we could, we might have to cut something for 2022 or do a supplemental resolution to add more money to the maintenance program.
Okay. All right. Any other questions? So then, are you done now with your part? We're ready to vote on the.
Yeah, I just want to make one other comment. So I did put in front of you our 5-year project list with a map that kind of shows what we're doing and for 2022 and beyond. So.
All right. And is this the same that was in our budget pack, in our, yeah, you didn't make any
Yes.
changes?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Okay. All right. Again, anyone have any questions? And so we have a motion and a second to approve the tentative highway department's budget, correct? I want to make sure we got everything right. Okay. Ready to vote? Let's do a roll call vote. Sorry, Julie.
Yes.
We told you earlier that we wanted to keep this exciting, and
Yes.
Going all day. Member Thompson.
Yes.
Member Klein.
Yes.
Member Lehman.
Yes.
Member Rogal.
Yes.
Chairman Soldner.
yes. So that took care of our items for action, including all the way down to 5E, the capital improvement plan. So now we are ready for items on number B, which are information. And these are the project summaries. And Jerry, I'm just going to let you go ahead and lead us on all those.
Sure. So I don't have any pictures. This is a lot of these projects are just resurfacing of the road. but just kind of giving an update. So Lexington East Road, from Lexington Leroy out to Colfax Weston Road, that project's been completed. We got final paperwork all done. We've been doing a little bit of dirt work out there, but but the contract's all done, and that came in about 2.5% under what the bid price was, and so it turned out really well. The next one's Rop Road, and this project's been completed as well. I think, yeah, everything's done on that, and so we're, this is one of our federal projects that we're gonna be, or that we did this year. This actually came out of the Surface Transportation Urban Funds, so it's within the MPO. And so we'll have to wait till we get final invoicing from IDOT on this before we can make final this project out. So who knows, that could be, it'll probably be next year before it's all said and done. But that project turned out, this was a cold in place recycling project with a hot mix overlay on that. And then Linden Street, so this project's almost completed as well. All the servicing's all been done. We're actually painting the yellow stripe on it today. And then tomorrow they're coming in with reflectors and the rumble strip edge stripe. So this is another federal project as well. And so there'll be another one that we won't get invoiced till next year, but they probably have. We spent, I guess the state spent $1 million on it so far, but we won't get our payment for a little while later. And then the Olympia School Road project was started a couple weeks ago, and this is going from the Tazewell County line 3 miles to the east. And so the binder course, the first lift of the hot mix has been put on. They're working on some curb and gutter at some of the intersections. And so I imagine that project will be wrapping up here in the next couple weeks. So we're in good shape for all our projects. You know, we got some maintenance work to do here and there, but we're looking pretty good. And then, as I mentioned, the 21 county MFT allotments were included. Summary was included in the packet.
All right. Anybody have any comments or questions? Member Thompson?
I just have a comment. I want to compliment you two and the staff and all the people that do all the work for us on the county highways. I drive around a lot, and it shows the quality work that we have and the quality highways that we have. So thank you, and pass that on to the rest of the crews that do all the work. Not that you guys don't do work, but
I appreciate that. Yeah, we
You know
do
what I
have a
mean.
real good maintenance crew, and they care, and also the rest of our engineering staff. They're, you know, on top of their projects, and you know, want to make sure that we're doing a good job. So they do well.
well, we appreciate it, and it shows.
All right. Anybody else? Again, I think we all want to thank the administration and you guys for the work that you do towards the budget. Again, we're lucky to have the funding for it, but on the other hand, there's always, as you mentioned with the salt and the truck issues, there's always issues that are beyond our control. And in the years that I've been around, you've been able to accomplish what you need to do. So we appreciate that also. So one other thing, Member Metzger, did you have anything other than you just wanted to attend? Okay, I wanted to give you an opportunity if you did. So, Member Klein?
Okay. I have a question, and you all know, I don't know a lot about highway maintenance, so far you've learned that today. So the street that is Main Street that goes through Normal, that's a county road, no? Okay, I see it highlighted here in black. That's why it was 91, and my eyes are too bad to see that number. Okay. Yeah, sorry, the number's too small for me to be able to read, but it's 91 as it's south and it comes up. I just wondered if that was, so it's not. Okay.
All right. And I think that's something that, again, that's pretty much throughout the entire county, is there's a lot of confusion sometimes with people when, you know, the county's got all this money, how come Hershey Street's so rough or whatever. And so, same way in the small towns, although in most small towns, we have county roads that go through that we're responsible for. But again, I know several years ago, Washington Street and Downs was a county road. And we turned that over to the village, and so it's their responsibility now. So So it does get to be confusing, so. Anything else, administration? All right, at that point then, we are adjourned. Thank you all for coming.